You just received a text message that made your blood boil. Your boss sent an email questioning your judgment. Someone cut you off in traffic, and you immediately honked, cursed, and felt that familiar surge of righteous anger. In that moment, you felt powerful. You were standing up for yourself, defending your position, reacting to injustice. But here's the devastating truth. Every emotional reaction is a surrender of power. Every time you respond immediately to provocation, you're revealing your greatest weakness. You're showing the world exactly how to control you. Today, we're going to explore the uncompromising path to emotional sovereignty. How to transform your greatest liability into your ultimate weapon. The modern world has become a laboratory for emotional manipulation. Social media platforms are designed to trigger outrage. Algorithms feed you content that makes you angry, and every notification is engineered to hijack your attention and emotional state. We've been conditioned to believe that expressing our emotions is authentic, that reacting immediately is honest. But this is a trap. Your emotions are not your identity, they're data. And when you let them control your behavior, you become predictable, manipulable, and ultimately powerless. Consider this scenario. Person A receives criticism at work and immediately fires off a defensive email, posts about it on social media, and spends the evening venting to friends. Person B receives the same criticism, acknowledges it calmly, takes time to process, and responds strategically after careful consideration. Who appears more competent? Who seems more in control? Who do you think gets promoted? The person who reacts emotionally, or the person who responds strategically? Niccolo Machiavelli understood this dynamic when he wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, because it belongs to everybody to see you, to few to come in touch with you." In our modern context, this means people will judge you by your composure, your restraint, and your ability to maintain control, not by how passionately you express your feelings. When you react emotionally, you reveal your triggers. When you respond strategically, you project authority. The first law of emotional sovereignty is what I call calculated delay, the deliberate practice of creating space between stimulus and response. This isn't suppression or denial. It's strategic processing. When someone provokes you, when circumstances trigger an emotional response, the strategically intelligent individual doesn't react immediately. They observe the emotion, acknowledge it, and then choose their response based on outcome rather than feeling. Think about the last time someone baited you into an argument online. They said something inflammatory, and you felt that immediate urge to respond, to correct, to defend. In that moment, they controlled you. Your reaction was predictable and therefore manipulable. But what if, instead of reacting, you simply observed? What if you recognized that most provocation is designed to extract an emotional response, and your refusal to provide one is the ultimate power move? Machiavelli captured this perfectly. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The fool reacts immediately, driven by emotion, and loses strategic advantage. The wise person processes, plans, and responds only when action serves their objectives. In the digital age, this principle becomes even more critical. Every tweet, every comment, every public reaction creates a permanent record of your emotional patterns. The person who reacts to every criticism, responds to every provocation, and engages in every debate is creating a comprehensive map of their vulnerabilities. They're teaching the world exactly how to manipulate them. Meanwhile, the strategically detached individual remains unreadable. They don't engage with trolls, don't defend themselves against every attack, and don't allow the constant stream of digital noise to dictate their emotional state. This isn't weakness, it's mastery. The second principle of emotional sovereignty is strategic detachment, the ability to observe your emotions without being controlled by them. This requires understanding that emotions are information, not commands. When you feel angry, that anger is telling you something about your values, your boundaries, or your expectations. But it's not telling you to lash out, to retaliate, or to make impulsive decisions. The strategically intelligent individual uses emotions as data points in a larger calculation. They ask, what is this emotion revealing about the situation? What outcome do I want to achieve? What response will best serve my objectives? Most people confuse emotional intensity with conviction. They believe that feeling strongly about something means they should act on that feeling immediately. But this is backwards. True power comes from the ability to feel your emotions fully while maintaining the discipline to choose your response based on strategy, not sensation. Consider two leaders facing a crisis. Leader A reacts immediately with visible emotion, anger, frustration, panic. They make decisions based on how they feel in the moment. Leader B remains composed, processes the situation objectively, and makes decisions based on what will achieve the best outcome. Who inspires more confidence? Who appears more capable? The person who's controlled by their emotions, or the person who controls their emotions? Machiavelli understood this when he observed, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." In modern terms, this means it's better to be seen as someone who cannot be emotionally manipulated than someone who can be controlled through provocation, flattery, or guilt. The person who can be triggered is weak, regardless of their position or resources. The person who remains strategically detached is powerful because they cannot be controlled through emotional leverage. The third law of emotional sovereignty is outcome obsession, the ruthless prioritization of results over emotional satisfaction. This requires asking a simple but profound question before every action. Will this serve my objectives, or will it just make me feel better in the moment? Most people make decisions to relieve emotional pressure. They're angry, so they vent. They're hurt, so they lash out. They're frustrated, so they complain. But emotional relief is not strategic value. In fact, it's often strategic cost. When you post about how frustrated you are with your job, you've satisfied your need for emotional release, but you've also signaled to your employer that you're a retention risk, and to competitors that you might be available. You've given away leverage for the temporary satisfaction of expressing your feelings. The strategically intelligent individual understands that every action has consequences beyond the immediate emotional relief it provides. They're willing to delay gratification, to sit with discomfort, to choose the harder path that leads to better outcomes. This isn't about becoming emotionless or robotic. It's about becoming intentional. It's about recognizing that your emotions are tools, not masters. When you master your emotions, you gain the power to choose your responses rather than being reactive. You become unpredictable to those who would manipulate you, and you become unstoppable in pursuit of your objectives. In negotiations, this means not showing your hand when you're frustrated. In relationships, this means not making decisions when you're emotional. In leadership, this means not reacting to every crisis with visible panic or anger. The person who can maintain composure under pressure, who can process emotions without being controlled by them, who can choose strategic responses over emotional reactions, this person commands respect and wields real power. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." The modern translation? It's better to be respected than understood, if you cannot be both. And respect comes not from emotional authenticity, but from demonstrated competence paired with strategic control. The ultimate goal of emotional sovereignty isn't to eliminate your emotions, it's to master them. It's to reach a state where external circumstances, other people's actions, and the constant noise of the modern world cannot knock you off course. This doesn't mean becoming cold or unfeeling. It means developing what I call emotional intelligence. In its truest form, the ability to feel your emotions fully while maintaining the discipline to respond strategically. When someone tries to manipulate you through guilt, you recognize the attempt and choose not to engage. When circumstances trigger anger, you observe the emotion, process what it's telling you, and then choose a response that serves your objectives. When the digital world tries to pull you into its validation loops and outrage cycles, you maintain your autonomy. The unmovable force understands that true power isn't the ability to control others, it's the ability to control yourself. It's the ability to stay focused on your goals while others get distracted by emotional drama. It's the ability to maintain your boundaries while others compromise theirs for temporary emotional relief. In our hyper-connected, emotionally reactive world, this kind of internal stability is revolutionary. While others are slaves to their feelings, constantly reacting to every provocation and making decisions based on emotional impulses, you operate from a place of strategic clarity and intentional control. The principles I've shared today aren't about becoming emotionless or disconnected. They're about reclaiming your power in a world designed to make you reactive. They're about trading the temporary satisfaction of emotional expression for the lasting strength of strategic control. In the digital age, where everyone is constantly triggered, perpetually outraged, and hopelessly reactive, the person who operates differently becomes magnetic. The person who isn't controlled by their emotions, who maintains composure under pressure, who makes decisions based on outcomes rather than feelings. This person stands out like a beacon in a sea of emotional chaos. The choice is yours. Remain a slave to your emotions, constantly reactive to every provocation, and forever at the mercy of those who know how to push your buttons. Or develop the strategic intelligence to master your emotions, maintain your composure, and become truly unbreakable. As Machiavelli understood centuries ago, and as our emotionally manipulative age has made more relevant than ever, true power lies not in expressing your emotions freely, but in controlling them strategically. The less you react, the more power you command. The less you're controlled by your feelings, the more respect you earn. The less predictable your emotional responses, the more influence you wield. The path to emotional sovereignty is uncompromising because it requires you to resist every instinct our reactive culture has programmed into you. But for those disciplined enough to master their emotions rather than being mastered by them, it offers something invaluable: control over your own responses, immunity to manipulation, and the kind of power that comes not from dominating others, but from mastering yourself.